Hello, kiddies. It's your old pal, the Crypt Keeper. And you're listening to Three Guys in a Flick. The good, the bad, and the gruesomely absurd.
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The show is about to begin.
I know what's going on. We got a bunch of fucking vampires out there trying to get in here and suck our fucking blood. And that's it. Plain and simple. And I don't want to hear anything about I don't believe in vampires. Because I don't fucking believe in vampires. But I believe in my own two eyes. And what I saw is fucking vampires. Now, do we all agree what we are dealing with is vampires?
Three guys and a flick with Talkin and John. Dive into the movies well after the dawn. From the good to the bad to the wildly absurd. They give a fuck about films. Their voices are heard.
Welcome back. You are listening to Three Guys in a Flick. This is where we review the good, the bad, and the absurd. Tonight's episode, From Dusk Till Dawn. Beware spoilers. Coming to you from outside the Titty Twister bar, my name is Don. And to my right, we have the comic book guy, John.
Hola.
And to my left, we have the professor, Ken.
Hello, everybody.
So what do you guys think? Should we go into this place?
We can't. I already tried.
Why?
Because we're not bikers and we're not truckers.
We brought the RV.
And if you look at my license, it has a Type C class driver rating. You say this bar is for truckers and bikers? Well, I am a truck driver, and you are my friends.
All right, let's go.
Welcome to the Titty Twister. Tonight we are talking about From Dusk Till Dawn. This movie comes to us because it was my pick, and we had been throwing around the idea of talking about our next Robert Rodriguez movie, and I think that personally this might be my favorite Robert Rodriguez movie, and so yeah, I want to get into it. Let's talk about
more than Desperado or El Mariachi.
It's fucking close, bud. It's really fucking close. Yeah, I am a huge fan of this movie, and I can't wait to talk about it.
Well, this is what happens when you combine Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino. Whoever thought you get those two together?
Oh, those two can do no wrong in my book. Grindhouse, just their collaborations together, the stories you hear about them. I mean, fuck yeah. Robert Rodriguez is probably in my top 3 directors of all time with Spielberg and Nolan.
Well, the crazy thing is this was originally supposed to be a sequel to Tales from the Crypt Demon Knight. That's how it was originally pitched. And I guess it turned into a whole new entity when Quentin Tarantino came aboard.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And we're going to get into that. Released on January 19th, 1996, From Dusk Till Dawn was directed by Robert Rodriguez, screenplay by Quentin Tarantino, story by Robert Kurtzman, and it stars Harvey Keitel, George Clooney, Quentin Tarantino, Juliette Lewis, Cheech Marin, Fred Williamson, Salma Hayek, Danny Trejo, and a bunch of other bloodsuckers.
How'd this movie do, Don?
This movie was made for $19 million and brought in $59 million.
I'm surprised actually it didn't do a little bit better with that pairing of director and writer.
I don't know, $59 million for a $19 million movie in 1996. That's not bad. I think that Quentin and Robert at this stage in the game, Pulp Fiction had come out, Desperado would come out.
Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah, Reservoir Dogs was before Pulp Fiction. But they were starting to build momentum. And this is kind of not at the start, but maybe, I don't know, shortly after the start of their blow up as who they become. But yeah, did you see this in the theater?
This is my actual first time seeing this. For some reason, I don't know why, but when you said we were going to do From Dusk Till Dawn, I get that movie confused with Vampires by John Carpenter.
The one with James Wood and the Baldwin?
Yeah, when I first turned it on, I'm like, where's Baldwin? Where's James Wood? I don't know if I've ever seen this movie.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, I'm excited to hear what you thought. Had you seen this before, sir?
Nope.
You had never seen From Dusk Till Dawn?
Nope.
Wow. I'm going to call this a great pick for me then, because I like it when you two haven't seen it.
The only thing that I regret about this movie is I already knew that vampires were involved in it. I wish I didn't know that going into my first viewing of it, because that twist would have been so much heavier had I not known that.
Oh, and I tell you what, I saw this in the theater back in 1996, and when we get to the Tootie Twister and everything goes south, fucking it blew my mind. It was so unexpected. I thought for sure we were getting a Reservoir Dog, Pulp Fiction type of movie because of the way it starts. But when they throw us for that loop and they unleash hell on us, oh, it's so much fun.
So I think that the reason why this movie didn't fare better in the box office has to do with this is the mid 90s and this is rom-com territory. Big movies are always going to be your action movies, but in the 90s, it was also rom-coms. There was only one other horror movie that rated better than this movie.
I know which one it is.
I know you do, because we did a pod on it as well.
What is it?
Exorcist?
Really?
Because
90s?
because The Exorcist came out in 1996. Wait, don't hurt yourself, bud. Scream.
Yep.
Yeah. Both by Dimensions.
And so people weren't going for horror movies. People weren't demanding horror movies.
Sure. So this is our third Robert Rodriguez movie, maybe? Do a real quick recap in your head. We did Sin City.
Yep.
Which John loves.
Once Upon a Time in Mexico.
Yep.
Which I love. And then this one. I think that's it.
I think so.
Yeah. Why have we not done El Mariachi or Desperado yet?
I don't know. They're not in the helmet. But definitely, I would love to talk about those because I talk about Robert Rodriguez all day long.
You've also been saying you want someone to put in the helmet, The Faculty.
Yes, I would like to see The Faculty.
I just want to know, how does a director like Robert Rodriguez goes from this style of movie to making Spy Kid movies?
Spy Kids was for his kids, and that was a project of love. And did you guys see the Spy Kids movies?
I saw the first one because the kids would watch it.
No, I have not seen any of the Spy Kid movies.
They are so much fun. I fucking love the Spy Kids.
I know
Antonio Banderas. Are you fucking kidding me?
I know
Danny
Joel
Trejo?
McHale's in one of them.
Yeah, he's in the last one, which was decent. I mean, definitely the first one with Gina Gargino and Antonio Banderas. Fuck off.
I just like
good
saying
stuff.
that name, Antonio
I know you do.
Banderas.
So Quentin Tarantino writes the screenplay for this, but this comes from Robert Kurtzman. Do you know who Robert Kurtzman is? He is one of the founding member of K&B Special Effects, and they're the ones behind Walking Dead,
Evil Dead 2,
and they worked a little. Robert Kurtzman worked on a couple of the Nightmare on Elm Streets. They are a big special effects group that now is Stan Winston, right? Special effects, his studios. They are now kind of like the equivalent, but horror, and they're fucking awesome.
He did the makeup effects on some of my favorite horror movies, which really kind of makes me see some of the inspiration in this movie, like the Evil Dead 2 and Phantasm and Phantasm 2 and 976 Evil. All of them, you can kind of see similarities in this movie.
Yeah. And like you were saying earlier, this was originally supposed to be an episode of Tales of the Crypt, the second movie or whatever.
Yeah, a sequel to Demon Knight.
Yeah. And Kurtzman is shopping it around and he gives it to Quentin, and Quentin puts his take on it and really loves it. And Kurtzman says, "Hey dude, will you direct this?" And Quentin's like, "No, man, I don't want to direct it." And so they go out and they have to find a director, and they come up with Robert Rodriguez, who Quentin had known, and they collaborated on it, and this is what we got. And it was, fucking awesome.
This was Quentin's first paid script.
Yeah, $1,500.
Yeah, to do this movie.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of Quentin, we know him as a director and a prolific writer. What'd you think of him as an actor in this?
I just want to know, do you think he put himself in this movie for that Salma Hayek foot scene?
Oh, no. Kurtzman wrote that for him. That was for Quentin.
That's awesome.
Juliette Lewis's feet, Selma's feet, all of the feet were specifically for Quentin, which I thought was cute. Now, what'd you guys think of him?
Well, he won an award for this, for his role.
Yeah, I know.
He got a Razzie for Worst Supporting Actor. But
Razzies.
I have to say, even though he was very stiff, even though it wasn't, wasn't a great actor in it, the more stiff he was, the more it made George Clooney shine in a way. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes complete sense, and I couldn't agree with you more. The chemistry between Tarantino and Clooney, I bought. Right.
Mhm.
Tarantino has been in Desperado. I think he's in he's in Planet Terror. He has these little cameo roles. This was his first big role.
Do you know that they both guest starred, Tarantino and Clooney guest starred on the same TV show?
Clooney wasn't a guest star.
Yes, he was on a certain show.
Oh, yeah.
They both appeared in episodes of Golden Girls.
Golden Girls. No, I did not know that. There you go.
But I do know that one of the reasons why George Clooney got cast for this movie is because Quentin Tarantino directed an episode of ER called Motherhood. And that's where him and Clooney became friends. And I think that's one of the reasons why Clooney got the role.
Speaking of Clooney, what'd you think of him in his first theatrical debut?
I thought it was great to see him, really surprising to see him go from such, the loving doctor to just this asshole character that's you want to support, but it's really hard to get behind.
Yeah.
His character was written brilliantly, and I think that he looks really intimidating, courtesy of the camera work that we get in the first act of the movie. His character is a really interesting watch.
I thought he was dynamic from the moment he comes on screen. I was rooting for him. I wasn't necessarily rooting for Richie, but I was rooting
root for the bad guys.
I was rooting for Seth, and I thought he knocked it out of the park. And as a matter of fact, it's because of this film Joel Schumacher said, "Hey, this is Batman." So I don't know if that's a curse or a blessing, but Clooney got Batman because of this role.
One of the things I really kind of liked about this movie was the fact that here you have this guy who's kind of like an anti-hero, but he's never really a hero in the movie. And they didn't even need to put in a redemption arc for him. He was exactly who he was in the beginning, is exactly who he was in the end.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of refreshing in this movie.
And he holds true to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that when we get to the ending. Out of the movies of Clooney, do you have a favorite role?
I really love him in Ocean's 11. And the other one that I adore him in is Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Yeah, absolutely. Solid choices. What about you?
Every time I think of him, I think of Ocean's 11.
Yeah.
I think that's the character that he has, he's become most famous for.
Yeah. I love him as the voice of Fantastic Mr. Fox. This, obviously, and of course, The Oceans and Oh Brother. And as a matter of fact, Clooney can do no wrong in my book either. So there you go.
Did you ever watch him on Facts of Life?
Yeah. And Roseanne. He was on Roseanne for a while, too.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Harvey Keitel. Jacob Fuller. What'd you think?
I liked him. I felt like he wasn't the full Harvey that I loved from Reservoir Dogs, but he always brings it to the screen.
He's an interesting character actor. There's a complexity to him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I think probably my favorite role has got to be Pulp Fiction.
I'm Winston Wolfe. I solve problems. What about you? Do you have a favorite Keitel?
The one that always jumps to mind is Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah. He is a phenomenal actor, and he took this role and really made it what it is, a loving, faithless preacher who's just trying to protect his family, right, at the end of the day.
And refind his faith.
Yeah. And, well, I mean, yes.
Well, have it shoved back into him.
Yeah, that's a better way of saying it. It was kind of forced on him. But, and I thought the chemistry between him and Clooney and everyone else, he was the voice of reason throughout this entire movie.
Mm-hmm.
And there are specific scenes that really get me, and we'll get there. So,
what'd you think of Juliette Lewis?
Oh, I love Juliette Lewis. She was so sweet and innocent, and I knew that she was way older than what she looked, but I loved her in this role.
I love how she seems to go from extremes when different characters, because you know her from Christmas Vacation, you know her from Natural Born Killers, and then you see her in this. It's like every time I look at her, I'm like, okay, is she going to lose it at any second now?
What movie did we review with her?
Cape Fear.
Very good. Yeah, and I like the transformation she makes. And she just kind of goes along with she just rolls with the punches, but, yeah, she's awesome.
Gotta mention Cheech. Cheech is just always great. I loved him in all 3 roles he was in.
Yeah, he is a staple of Robert Rodriguez. He seems to be in all of his movies. And the Border Patrol guy, Chet Pussy, and then Carlos at the end, I thought was a very good use of Cheech.
Quick just Easter egg. I guess when he played the border guard, the badge that he had his father's name on it, who was really a police officer.
It's fucking awesome.
Oscar Marin was the name of his father.
Yeah, absolutely. What'd you guys think of Scott, or what's his name? The guy who played Scott, her brother.
Ernest Liu.
Ernest Liu. What'd you guys think of him?
Passable.
I didn't get much from him. He just kind of was there.
And I hate to say this because I love this movie so much, but he's one of the reasons that keeps it from getting a 5. I don't like him. He takes me out of it. And yeah, I guess this was his first acting role, and Robert really liked him and they gave him a shot. And I mean, like you said, Professor, it's passable, but there are certain things that he does in this that just really drive me nuts. But anyone else in the cast jump out at you?
There was this lady, I think her name is Selma something or other. What about her?
Yeah, Professor, what about her? What'd you think of Selma?
Hubba.
Oh my God.
I have one strong complaint about her role that I really did not like about Salma Hayek.
When they turned her into the vampire?
That they killed her off way too fucking quickly.
Yeah, well, they do kill her off quickly. And it's funny because, as the listeners know, and everyone else who knows me knows, I hate snakes. I can't do snakes. When it comes to snakes, I'm like Indiana Jones. I won't fucking do it. When they're on screen, I turn away. If they pop out on a movie or something, I'll close my eyes. This is the only movie I will watch the entire scene with a snake.
I'm going to do a quick diversion. We go to a convention every year called Crypticon, and one of the booths has a bunch of live reptiles at it. Don will not go near that booth. He will go down the other aisleway to avoid that one booth.
Now, if you had Salma Hayek sitting there with the reptiles, this might be a different conversation. But do you guys know who Tom Savini is?
He's done makeup and effects, I think, in a lot of different movies. I know he's been in a few movies as well. I knew the face. I didn't really know the actor very well.
Yeah, you?
No, knew nothing about him.
He plays Sex Machine. Mm-hmm. And he's very much a special effects guy. He did the first Friday the 13th and all of George Romero's movies, starting with Dawn of the Dead, I believe. But he is a staple in the effects world as well. And him being in this was a fucking delight.
You know who was really a delight for me was my guy, Danny Trejo.
Danny Trejo.
I love him and everything. I've mentioned it before. I'm just going to throw it out there. I met him. He's such a nice guy. And he did, I think it was Prison Time in San Quentin. So he is really a criminal. Well, he insists in all of his movies, if he plays a bad guy, which he usually does, it's always written in, he must die in the movie because he wants kids who see it or people who see it to know bad things happen to bad people.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
I got to say, Robert Rodriguez, he does enjoy working with the same crew and cast. We've had several of these people throughout other Rodriguez movies. And I was looking at Salma Hayek. She's low on the list, if you will. She's only been in 5 of his movies. Only 5. But who's been in more? You've got Antonio Banderas. He's been in 7. And you also have Cheech. He's been in 7 of them. But the King, been in 9 of his movies. Danny
fucking Trejo. That's right.
He's apparently, there's 2 sequels after this movie. And Danny Trejo's the only one that appears in all 3 From Dusk Till Dawn movies. One other thing I want to just throw out there that I really liked about this movie is one of the things that Tarantino does is he connects all of his movies into like the same universe, and he usually ties them together with Big Kahuna burgers. The fact that Seth orders and eats a Big Kahuna burger, just like they do in Pulp Fiction and other movies, connects it up. Well, Rodriguez did the same thing. He brought in Chango beer.
Chongo.
Chongo beer into this movie. So now it's almost like we get Tarantino's universe connecting to Rodriguez's movies. So all those characters could eventually do a crossover.
Hey, Professor, is it about that time for a little bit of trivia?
I think it is about that time. Gentlemen, prepare to be wowed. Or not. Question number 1. When Seth is discussing the rules to Gloria, what is rule number 2?
Don. Rule number 1, rule number 2 is do what we say when we say it.
I was thinking it's don't run.
I thought 3 was don't run.
Don is correct. Rule number 2 is you do what we say when we say it. If you don't, see rule number 1.
I said plant. Plants don't talk. I love that guy.
And I love that rule number 3. And if you try to run, I have 6 little friends that are faster than you. Question number 2. What does Richie hear Kate say to him while Seth is telling him to drive Jacob's RV up front?
Don.
Don?
Richie, will you do me a favor and eat my pussy?
Yeah, it was basically eat my pussy.
Oh, it's exactly the line.
Pretty darn close, but you are correct. Richie, would you do me a favor and eat my pussy for me? Please?
And then later on, if you still want me to do that for you, I will.
Question number 3. When we first arrive to the titty twister and the guy comes out to warm up the crowd, how many times do we hear him say pussy? Now, the answer, I will accept whichever one is closest. And I'm talking about the first time, not after we hear some dialogue and then he says it
Apple
more.
pie?
Yeah.
So not counting the apple pie. Everything up to apple pie. All right.
I'm going with 18.
I will go with 15.
The answer goes to John. My unofficial count is 27.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense.
Question number 4. Right after Seth yells, "Kill them all," during the final showdown, who do we see strike first from our group?
Don. It's Scott with a water balloon.
Scott is correct. And question number 5. When Seth and Carlos negotiate Carlos's cut at the end of the movie, what is the first amount Carlos offers to Seth's 15%?
John. 28?
John is correct. 28% is his first rebuff. And so that concludes this round. And Don, you are the winner this week. You edge out John.
You like that, don't you?
Mother sucking.
Oh, now you're going to censor yourself?
Hot air hangs like a dead man from a white oak tree. People sitting on porches thinking how things used to be. Dark night. It's a dark night.
Fugitive bank robbers Seth and Richie Gecko are on the run after a violent liquor store robbery where they kill both the clerk and Texas Ranger Earl McGraw. They take refuge in a motel, but tensions rise when Seth discovers Richie has raped and murdered their female hostage. Meanwhile, Jacob Fuller, a former pastor struggling with his faith after his wife's death, is traveling in an RV with his teenage children, Scott and Kate. The Gecko Brothers hijack the RV and take the Fuller's family hostage, using them to cross the Mexican border. So I love how this movie opens up. It opens up it very reminiscent to Kill Bill. I felt a Kill Bill vibe even before we saw Earl McGraw. Maybe it was the desert location or whatever, but we watched the car is out a little bit, right? We watch him pull all the way in. Our camera comes down, and it's very much a shot that reminded me of their previous movies.
It is exactly what I was thinking. I thought, are we watching Kill Bill 2? Because it felt very much like the opening of Kill Bill 2.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys had never seen this. Did you? You knew it was, I knew you knew it was vampires. Did you know it was vampires ultimately?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
The one thing I didn't realize is I thought that this Earl McGraw was going to play a bigger part in the movie. So when they twisted it and out comes, he goes to the bathroom and out comes Seth, I did not expect that.
Yeah, neither did I. And I love this opening bit because it's very subtle. We're already in the middle of the story, and the dialogue carries this film from beginning to end. I absolutely love the writing in this.
Well, it's Quentin.
Yeah.
And it shows.
Well, the other great thing about this opening is killing off the ranger like that and then destroying the whole place sets up a tone of, now I don't know who's going to live or die in this movie. I don't know, I know that Seth and I figured Richie, they were going to make it to the end of the movie, but I figured everyone else is expendable in this movie.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And so McGraw comes in, is talking to Pete, the guy behind the counter, and we, the audience, think that this is just a normal day and they're going to give us some exposition, and they kind of do. Earl says, how's your day? And Pete goes, it's fine. They talk about McGraw getting sick, this, that, and the other. But then we've been getting reports of a bank robbery and fugitives are on the run.
And people have been killed.
And McGraw says, well, they're headed toward Mexico, which would bring them my way. And, he's kind of preparing himself for that. And he thinks that's coming. And Pete's just sitting behind the counter, just talking away. And then Earl says, I got to take a piss. And he goes, takes a piss. And then the camera follows McGraw as he's walking to the bathroom. And then as McGraw passes out of frame, the camera focuses on Clooney. And he comes up and he's holding this girl hostage with the gun. He puts the gun in Pete's face. And we're fucking off, right? I mean, we're in the middle of it.
They make a line of, Pete saying that he deserves an Academy Award. I didn't expect it at all either. I thought he did a great job of pretending nothing was wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we're told that Richie and Seth are there and they need to get rid of this cop right away. And the banter between Clooney and Pete is some of my favorite in the entire movie. Because he's like, do you want everyone to die? Because I will fucking kill everybody. And Pete's like, no, I'm doing what you said. I'm trying to get rid of him. And then I love how Richie comes up and says, were you giving that pig signals? And Pete's like, no. And then Seth's like, are you calling him a liar? And he says, no, blah, 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 blah. And he says, okay, everybody be cool. The Ranger's coming out. They all hide again. They pick up the conversation. And then out of the blue, like you were saying, Richie comes out and shoots Earl McGraw in the back of the head.
The thing that I kept thinking in the beginning of this movie is that, here's George Clooney, kind of a babyface guy who's generally got a heart of gold and all the other things he's been in, all those shows he's been in. I kept thinking he's probably just misunderstood. He's probably not really this bad guy. It's all, and you're seeing, no, he is kind of a bad guy.
Yeah, no, I don't. Yeah,
I kind of expected the movie to go one way with his character, and I didn't expect it to go the way it went.
I expected bad guy vibe. He radiated bad guy vibe from, the moment he got on the screen, and I thought that was just who he was going to be. And I was curious if he was going to live at the end of the movie or not.
Yeah. And after Richie shoots McGraw, Seth comes up and he's like, whoa, what the fuck are you doing? We're trying not to attract attention. And Richie says, he signaled the cop. And then Pete has to protect his honor or whatever. He's like, no, I didn't. You fucking liar. And then the whole shootout. What'd you think of the whole shootout in the store?
Crazy.
I thought it was so much fun.
I thought it was interesting. It shows kind of what, how Seth's brain works. He's like, shoot the alcohol.
Yeah.
And I was like, why is he shooting at the alcohol? Oh, now it makes sense.
And the cutting is crisp and the music is going. The girls take off. Clooney kicks a fucking shelf and a roll of or lighter fluid pops into his hand. I mean, everything about it is so cool, I think. And just the way they take care of Pete, which kind of sucks.
Yes.
It's like, I didn't fucking lie. We're going to die anyway.
Yeah.
And he shoots Tarantino's character, Richie, in the hand.
Yeah.
That's gotta fucking hurt.
Oh, yeah. Fuck yeah, it does. And as they are walking out.
I did love the camera shot of us looking through Richie's hand at Seth.
Yeah. Because there's a hole in it.
Yeah.
And then Pete pops up on fire and then they shoot him and he falls into the popcorn.
And then it starts popping.
Yeah. They had to cut that because there was a couple of more seconds of Pete's legs twitching that the MPAA said, ah. So Seth and Richie are walking out of Benny's World of Liquor.
Did you notice that when the explosions were going off, they didn't flinch at all?
No.
It was a cool guy walk.
Yeah, it was very much the cool guy walk, and it was one take. They got to blow that thing up one time. And what we got is what we saw. And it was so cool. I mean, he's walking out there going, low profile. Do you know what low profile means? And Richie's like, hey, Richie, how's your hand? It's like, son of a bitch. And then the tune starts. They get a little guitar. They get into that Cougar, which I fucking love that car. And the soundtrack starts.
We get the reveal of the girl in the trunk.
And we're off.
It felt very Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction to me in this moment. Did you feel Rodriguez, since you're such a Rodriguez fan, did you feel his vibe in there as well?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The music tone, very much so, because the guys that did the soundtrack, Tito and the Tarantulas, they're also the ones who do the soundtrack for Desperado. They did a track for Kill Bill. That's Rodriguez's band. And so I get that feel a lot. In fact, the head singer or the lead singer of the vampire band was one of the henchmen in Desperado, who is actually the front man of that band.
He looked familiar. I was wondering about that.
Yeah. And then we get the credits, and then we cut to a motel, and Clooney's trying to get the attention of the guy, and they want a room. And I like when the dude comes out and he's all, what the fuck do you want? And Clooney doesn't bat an eye. He says, what do you think I want, you mean old bastard? I want a fucking room.
I love the guy changes to say, oh.
Okay. They get a room, and as they're going to the room, I like how Richie's all, do they have cable? No. Do they have the X-rated channel? No. Do they have a waterbed? No.
Well,
No.
what do they have?
They got 4 walls and a roof, and that's all we need. And I say that all the time. So thank you, From Dusk Till Dawn. And so they pull up to the room. They have to get the hostage out, and they go inside, and this is where Seth kind of has a moment to breathe, and they look at Richie's hand. They talk to the hostage. The plan is for Seth to go to check out the border, make contact with Carlos, find him a way to get across the border. In the meantime, get something to eat, and he'll be right back, right? And he tells the hostage, sit there, don't say shit, and you'll get out of this okay. You have my word.
I like when Seth leaves, Richie goes and sits in the bed. And, why didn't you come sit next to me? Just why don't you come watch some TV with me?
Yeah, we knew that wasn't going to go.
Yeah, because we had the police bulletin, if you will, about the newscaster bit, Anyway.
Yeah. And so as she gets up and goes, sits down next to him, you just get this creepy feeling that this isn't going to end well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And part of me is thinking, we don't really need to see it either. We just know, right? So while that happens, we meet
Jacob, Kate, and Scott.
And they're all having breakfast or whatever. They're on a road trip. And Jacob says, I want to find a motel. I want to sleep in a honest to goodness bed one last time. We are told through the narrative that his wife has passed, the kid's mother, and that he was a pastor, and that he's kind of lost his faith.
Yeah, basically, his daughter asks him, are you going to go back to the church? And he's like, there's no reason to.
Right. The bit where she says, what do you think Mama would say? And Jacob's...
That's just cold and
so cold.
Hurt. You could tell there's a lot of hurt in him.
Yeah, she doesn't got anything to say. She's dead. Yeah, so matter of fact.
And that's heartbreaking to say to your kid. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, but he's hurting too, right?
Yeah.
And he says, do I believe that there is a God? Yes. But do I love him? No, I do not. And Kate even says, she looks at him and she goes, you've been a pastor all of our lives, and then one day you're going to wake up and just say, fuck him?
Fuck yeah.
And I like I like Jacob's response. He's shocked that she said it. And then he's like, no, I just didn't say fuck him. Just answers back. And then we cut back to the motel, and we see Seth get out of the car with some big kahuna burgers. And I'm thinking, big kahuna burgers. And he gets in, and we've also seen the news clipping.
What'd you think of that little body count thing that they had on the newscast?
I thought that was so comical.
It was.
And I liked it.
It was so funny, odd.
We got Kelly Preston and John Saxon
Yeah, what's up with that?
making a quick cameo. And we are told that Richie broke Seth out in a daring escape, and then they robbed a bank, and in the meantime, they killed a bunch of people, took a hostage, and they are on the run. And I like how John Saxton says, we'll have them in custody within 48 hours. And then Seth gets back. Him and Richie are talking in the motel. And I like how Seth says, what did they say? And Richie just repeats what they said on the news. They are going to apprehend us in about 48 hours.
Well, we're leaving for Mexico tonight.
Right. And then they're divvying up the burgers, and Clooney looks down and he has 2 burgers in his hand, and he has to stop and think, and he says,
Where's the woman?
Where's Gloria?
Richie's like, what? What do you mean, what? What? The hostage? Where's the fucking hostage, Richie?
She's in there.
What the fuck is she doing in there? And this bit has always stuck with me as someone who loves film and who
It's a great reveal.
makes movies. We only see Clooney's reaction.
And then just those little quick slices of a shot.
We get like half a frame of what happened in there, and the camera keeps pushing in on Seth's face, and
It's a good 15 seconds. We are listening. Waiting to hear him say something. And this is a guy that's been tough as nails, and he definitely has a lot to say. And here he is, speechless for a good 15 seconds. It sinks into the audience that what Seth is looking at is bad.
And then Seth snaps out of it and goes, "Is it me?" And Richie's like, "No, it's her fault." He's like, "Is it me?" And then that confrontation they have, it was so good. And then he says, in a couple of hours, we're going to be in Mexico, and none of this shit's going to matter. So, and then we cut to the Fullers pulling into the motel area, and Kate's like, I hope they have a pool. And
They almost hit Seth.
like, what the fuck?
But you can see in Seth's eyes, when he looks at the RV, you can kind of see he's formulating a plan.
Fuck yeah, you
like,
that's-
can.
There's
Yeah.
something going on in his head.
The way that he lingers as he walks off, it's like the cogs are turning inside his head, and these guys are fucked.
Uh-huh. Absolutely. Then we cut to Jacob's motel, and Scott's playing the guitar, Kate goes swimming, and Jacob's trying to rest. And there's a knock on the door.
Housekeeping.
Well, actually, it's Richie, and he says,
I'm your neighbor.
me and my lady friend could use some ice. Could you maybe help us out?
I promise I'll bring it right back.
I love that line. And then he pulls out his gun, and Jacob sees it. Clooney shows up, and Clooney tells Jacob, this is how it's going to go. I like the bit where they finally get in, and Scott and Jacob are sitting next to each other. And, Clooney says, what is this sort of a weird thing going on here?
Right.
And he says, no, he's my son. And he goes, well, how does that happen? He doesn't look Japanese. And
It's because he's not. He's Chinese.
oh, excuse me, all the hell. So classic Clooney. And he says, we're in some trouble. We're taking your RV, and you're going to get us to Mexico. And Jacob says, no, you're
No.
not.
Mm-mm.
You're not. My kids aren't going anywhere with you. And Seth's just like, he's had enough, right?
Yeah.
He puts the gun to Scott's head, and he says, yes, you fucking are, or I will execute all 3 of you right fucking now. So it's your choice. Get in the RV, or, you all die. And in the meantime, Kate comes in from the pool, and this is where we get that line with Richie and Kate. And you know from jump that
Yes.
it could possibly go very wrong this way as well.
That-
We've
Yes.
already seen what Richie's capable of, and now you have Juliette Lewis.
My thought at the scene, or that during this scene, is now are we going to have to watch Richie the rest of the movie when he tries to get alone with her? Like, is this going to be an ongoing story
Yes.
of him trying to get to her?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought the same thing too, and I'm thinking, oh,
And it was emphasized that much more when you get that audio sound of that rumble sort of sound, right? That, okay, we're inside Richie's head and Richie's in a bad place.
yeah, and that sound almost sounds lustful.
You
You
know,
know,
I also noticed kind of how Seth's reaction is thinking, I'm going to have to keep her away from Richie.
yeah. Seth doesn't want anything bad to happen per se. He doesn't fucking care. He just don't want to get caught, right?
And then that camera shot that we get when Richie is picking up the keys and we go back up Kate's body. That is a beautiful camera shot showing, the male gaze.
And Juliette Lewis does such a great job of looking so creeped out. If you watch her face, she's scared.
Well, the one thing that I thought about this scene that was a little surprising to me is the kid's reaction. I thought they'd be more scared, more like she might cry a little, or Scott might be shaking a little bit, something. They all kind of seemed relaxed, a little too relaxed for me.
I don't know. I think they were doing what they were told, and it was just to be quiet.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how I took it.
Mm-hmm.
And so they get on the...
All right, Ramblers, let's get rambling.
And
Which I guess is a line from another movie.
Reservoir Dogs.
It is Reservoir Dogs.
Reservoir Dogs, yeah.
And so they're on the RV, and now we get a chance for Jacob and Seth to catch up. And in the meantime, Richie is sitting in the back with Scott and Kate.
Got more male gaze going on.
But I do like this bit because Kate's like, where are you taking us?
Mexico.
What's in Mexico?
Mexicans.
Such a great line.
Yeah.
It's so simple.
Quentin writing. Come on, man.
Yeah. And then
I just want to say so briefly, that's an interesting thing because he did Pulp Fiction and he got an Oscar for his writing. And what's it like to be, okay, I got an Oscar and now I'm going to write another movie. That's pretty wild to be thinking about, because that's a lot to live up to.
And it's got to do something to the ego as well.
Yeah.
So,
but I think it shows here because the confidence that we have written into Seth and the insecurities and the faults that we have written into Richie.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Good writing in this.
Yeah. And I like this dialogue bit with Seth and Jacob as they're driving because it's really short and sweet. Seth is looking through Jacob's wallet and he finds a preacher ID or whatever it is. And he says, is this real? They get into a conversation about it. And then they start talking about his wife. And the line that sticks with me, I don't know why, is he says, what happened to your wife? And Jacob says, well, she was in a car accident. She died. And Seth's like, well, give me some more details. Did, she stick around? Was it some drunk, whatever? And he says, no, she held on for about 6 hours and then she died. And Seth says, wow, those acts of God really stick it in there and break it off, don't they? And Jacob at that moment is completely agreeing with Seth.
Yep.
Like, yeah, he fucking knows. And then Seth starts questioning him about the preacher thing. And he says, and Jacob says,
I'm done sharing.
Yeah. And Clooney's like, you know what? You're right. Fuck that. Enough of the chit chat. You get us into Mexico and you stay with us and I'll let you go. You have my word. And Jacob says, well, how do I know you will let us live? How can I trust you? And Seth's like, you can't. Because first of all, I care about 3 things: me, my money, and my brother. The rest of you could live forever or die right this second. I don't give a fuck.
Mm-hmm.
And if you stay with us, we'll let you live. And also, in the meantime, you don't want to have to be worrying about my brother's intentions towards your daughter, right?
Because you can see it.
And he's like, yes. And he says, you stay with us through the night, no incident. You will all be safe, including your daughter. You have my word.
And then it's a handshake.
And then they come up to the border. What did you guys think of this whole border crossing?
I was really curious to see how this was going to play out.
Yeah.
I wondered that too, I thought something's going to happen. They're going to want to come onto the RV. Where are they going to hide? And I figured the bathroom, but that's pretty obvious.
Yeah. Well, the way they played it was pretty smart.
Yeah.
And I don't know whose idea it was to put Kate on the toilet like that, but it was one of theirs.
I got to say, though, Cheech playing the border guard, the way he looked at her.
The way he continued to look at her.
Male gaze.
Again, there's just something, I don't know if it's Rodriguez or Tarantino, but something about just capturing that creepy factor of just, oh my God, this guy is horrible.
Yeah. Yeah. Because they come up to the patrol and Scott's like, Dad, we got to do something. And Jacob's like, no, your sister's back there with them. We got to take care of them. And he comes up and goes, what are you guys doing in Mexico? And Jacob says, I'm going to take my son to his first bullfight. Just me and my son.
I kind of thought Scott was going to do something.
I didn't, but I thought as soon as you hear the noise in the bathroom, I thought, uh-oh.
Yeah. But, I really liked it because Seth, he kind of sort of says, you're a nut job. And the fact that Richie starts to lose it, and he just couldn't let go of it.
He couldn't. What's the most funniest thing I've ever done, huh, Seth? Like breaking you out of prison? And Seth's really trying to keep his cool, right? Not now, Richie, not now. And then finally, Seth knocks him out, right?
Because he wouldn't shut up.
But did you hear Kate?
Yes.
Thanks. Because he was probably scaring her, right?
I really thought the border guard was going to get killed in this scene. I didn't expect him to make it out of that RV alive.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. And especially the very first time I watched this, I had no idea about the titty twister or the vampires. So I thought we were still moving along, right? But did you notice that as Cheech is slowly closing that door, she looks to the left to try to give him away. But then the camera pans and we see Seth holding the gun and holding Richie up. But yeah, smart move. Kate's sitting on the toilet and the border patrol's like, oops. What I thought was a little fishy was the border guard goes, what was that? And he goes, oh, that was my daughter. I meant me, my son, and my daughter. If I'm the border patrol, I'm thinking, how the fuck did you forget your daughter?
No shit.
Well, that's what he says, and that's why he comes aboard. Is because he didn't mention the daughter.
Yeah, well, I mean, still, the fact that you forgot to mention it in the first place. Wow.
I like when they get across the border that Richie wakes up and Seth's like, no, you just passed out.
You said something about your hand hurting, and then you hit the ground like a ton of bricks. Scared the shit out of me, bud. Guess what, man? We are officially Mexicans. Seth tells Jacob, you're going to drive down this street until you hit a road called Tecayo. Then you're going to turn this big bastard left, and you're going to keep driving until you hit a bar called the Titty Twister. From what I am told, you cannot miss it. And Jacob says, and then? And Clooney says, and then you stop, because that's where we're going. The group arrives at the Titty Twister, a remote desert strip club that caters exclusively to bikers and truckers. They are to meet Carlos, Seth's contact, there at dawn. After convincing the doorman to let them in, the group tries to lie low. Richie grows increasingly unstable and starts a confrontation. Suddenly, the strippers and bar staff reveal themselves to be vampires, attacking and slaughtering most of the patrons. Richie is killed by the lead vampire, Santanico Pandemonium. But Seth avenges him. Only a few survive. Seth, Jacob, Scott, Kate, biker Sex Machine, and Vietnam vet Frost. But when Sex Machine is bitten, a domino effect begins, turning Frost and Jacob into vampires. The survivors retreat to a storeroom to regroup to build makeshift weapons from looted cargo. So we get to the Titty Twister.
Yep.
And, big neon lights.
Would you see that place and think, I gotta go in there?
No. Would you?
I don't know. It's one of those, you might have to see it once, but when I saw the clientele outside, yeah, you do judge a book by its cover.
What do you guys think about this bit when they walk in?
I love Chet's, spiel of trying to get the people to come in.
Oh,
how many times, like you were saying, was it 27 times he says pussy right in the first part?
My unofficial count, yes.
Oh my God, so funny. And Seth gives him a pep talk before they go in. He says, everybody be cool. I'm really happy about where we're at. We have a really good, I won't fuck with you, you don't fuck with me vibe going on. We stick together. We get through the night. And in the morning, I'll let you all go.
I love how when you read the plot there, you say that they convinced the doorman to let them in. I like how they convinced him.
Well, they don't really convince him. They just beat the shit out of him.
They beat the shit out of him. And then Richie comes back and kicks him a few more times.
Yeah, that's not going to come back and bite us.
No,
Yeah,
literally.
Yeah, didn't see that at all.
And then we walk in, and now we get a full 360 camera view of the bar.
This is my kind of place.
And you got dancers on the tables, you got fights breaking out, and they're kind of walking in. And Jacob's like, into the fire we walk. And he's holding on to Kate and Scott, because clearly this is no place for kids. And I love when Clooney walks up to the bar, and he asks Trejo whiskey, and Trejo's like, you can't come in here.
Well, Trejo, doesn't he first pour a drink and then drinks it himself?
He pours the shot And then he drinks it himself.
Yeah. And then he says, you guys, you're not welcome. You can't come in here. And Seth's like, I'm not good enough to drink here. And it's told to us that this bar is for bikers and truckers only. And then this big dude, security, I guess, comes to escort Seth out. And Seth's in his face.
Do you know why?
Right after, I mean, as soon as he shows up.
We don't know this at this point, but do you know why they said it was for bikers and truckers only?
Because that's what they've been feeding on for millions of years.
Because I've seen it in other movies. Bikers and truckers are the people that nobody goes looking for.
Huh?
So,
Okay.
Nobody's going to supposedly miss them because they're usually gone for long periods of time.
Well, maybe. Yeah. And
I like Seth's line, am I not good looking enough to drink here?
yeah.
What an arrogant prick.
Yeah.
But Jacob's the one that basically stops a big fight from happening.
Yeah, he soothes the situation over.
Yeah. There's just been a misunderstanding. You say this bar is for bikers and truckers. Well, if you look outside your door, you'll see my truck. Here's my license. I am a truck driver, and these are my friends. And at the same time, the musical score, the song that's playing in the background, it's building as we're cutting back to Clooney, back to the guy he's going to fight, back to Trejo, back to Jacob, and it keeps building until finally Danny Trejo says, "Welcome to the titty twister."
One of the things I like in the dialogue here, again, to credit to Seth's character and the way that Clooney plays it, is when the guy's going to count to 3 and Clooney says 2.
Yeah, he doesn't back down.
The guy goes 1.
Escalates it.
And,
Yeah. And then everything de-escalates and they take a seat. I like what he says. I like what Seth says to Trejo. You serve Mexican food here? And Trejo was like, the best in Mexico. And Clooney's like, I kind of doubt that.
And you like how he goes to the table and just kicks the guy out of the table?
Yeah, and he gets the girl down from dancing on it, and he's going to have a drink, and he doesn't want to drink by himself. I like this scene because this kind of loosens the characters up a little bit. Clooney and Seth and the family sit down. Clooney starts pouring shots and offers one to Scott, and Scott's like, no, thank you. And offers one to Kate, and Kate goes, I'm not 21. And Clooney says, which is a yes. And we find out that Jacob won't drink with him right now. And so they take that first shot. And as he's pouring, he says, Scott, you ready for your first one? And he goes to give it to him. And Jacob goes, no, he's not going to do it. And Clooney's like, yes, he is. Because I'm not going to fucking drink alone. And in the same time, he pours Kate one. I don't know if anyone ever notices this, but Kate grabs it and she's like, yes, I'll have another one. Thank you.
Well, I know
because she's into it now, right? She likes it.
I noticed the 2 drinks that she has. The first one she has, you can see she's kind of shocked by it because she's taken back, the burning and everything. Second one, she takes like a champ.
Yeah. It's this dialogue at the table. Seth is clearly still agitated about what was about to go down earlier on, and Jacob calls him out on it. He says, why are you so agitated? And Clooney says, because I'm still stewing about that big ape putting his hands on me. And Jacob uses Seth's words against him.
Yep.
Before we came in here, you said for everybody to be cool. That includes you. And Seth's like, I said, do as I say, not as I do. But then Jacob says, are you such a fucking loser that you don't know what you've won? And Seth says, what did you say to me? And Jacob's like, nothing. I didn't make a statement. I asked a question. Would you like me to ask it again? And he does. And he basically says, everyone's looking for you. You got away with it. You won, Seth. Enjoy it. And that it diffuses Seth. And he says, you know what, Jacob? We're going to have a drink. And finally, Jacob says, okay, yeah, let's have a drink.
You can see this is starting to build the respect between the two of them.
Yeah, they certainly probably do not like each other, but there's some sort of respect. And I think that maybe if Jacob plays this just right, him and his kids can walk out of here. No harm, no foul.
Yeah, they're both walking a fine line.
Yes.
All I kept thinking was the moment that Jacob and his kids do get out of this situation, he is going to lay into his kids about drinking.
Oh, I doubt it. And then brings us to one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie. Santanico Pandemonium. What'd you think of Selma and the Snake?
I guess that whole dance scene was improvised.
Yeah, because Salma Hayek had a great fear of snakes. Couldn't do it the first couple of times. And Robert Rodriguez talked her into it and helped her out. And she had to improvise the dance because snakes can't be trained to dance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all of that was kind of improvised.
She went into therapy afterwards because of all this.
No, it was before.
Or was it before that
She took 2 months of therapy
That's right.
to steel herself to be able to handle the snake.
Did you read why she took this role?
Yes. She took this role because Rodriguez said, Madonna really wants to play this part. And, I'm offering it to you, but Madonna really wants this part. But she didn't want to have anything to do with the snake, and she finally acquiesced and okay. And then that's why she took the therapy to get through the snake bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And it ties very much into Tarantino's foot fetish
How far did she get that foot into his mouth?
I don't know, but he was fucking loving it.
He had it shoved. He must have.
Had to have. I was watching Clooney last night because Selma's butt is in Clooney's face.
Pretty much.
He has to consciously look up and away so he's not staring at her ass the entire time. It's funny to watch because I know what he's doing. But anyways, she does this great dance. And
what is it like to, you got to have some cojones. You have everybody on set, everybody in the scene, all staring at you, and you got to move your body seductively like that. Very well done.
With a fucking huge reptile on you that you
no
were
kidding
petrified of. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
agreed.
huge cojones. Hats off to Selma because she sold that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the bit because for me, watching it, you're like, ooh, yeah. But then you're in the back of your mind, you're thinking, all right, well, what's going to happen next? Because, something's got to go down. And so she finishes the dance, and Cheech and his buddies walk into the bar, and Cheech is like, it was those guys. And Seth notices it and says, Richie, get back on the clock. Richie says, how many?
Man, they are a well-oiled machine.
Yeah. Yeah, all he has to say is back on the clock, and
it's all business.
Yeah.
And a knife goes into Richie's hand, the same hand he got shot in.
So I'm wondering if it probably didn't hurt that much if it went through the hole that was already existing.
I was thinking that too.
Richie gets stabbed in the hand. They break out the guns. They start shooting everybody. There's a moment of silence.
There's this, they keep going back to, Salma Hayek's character looking at the blood, and that this is like a turning point in the movie.
It is very distracting for her.
Yeah, she's just staring at it.
And in the meantime, Jacob looks up and sees the green blood dripping off of the knife. And we're like, oh, fuck. And we do this thing where the camera's doing a 360 around and they're trying to keep control of the situation. And Seth and Richie are like, everyone just be cool. Fuck, shut up. Everybody be cool. And then Juliette Lewis looks up, and you were saying that Salma was looking very salvacious. She finally turns. Her head goes back. She turns into a fucking snake, reptile, vampire thing. And Kate yells, and it's fucking on.
Do you know why they used the green blood instead of red blood?
The same reason why they don't use red blood in all the movies, to get past the MPAA.
Yeah, otherwise it was going to be, NC-17?
Uh-huh. What do you guys think of this whole vampire reveal?
Pretty crazy.
I thought it was a little odd at first that, she became a snake-looking vampire, even though obviously she must like snakes. And then all the vampires looked a little bit different. But then reading into it more, it was meant to be they were demon vampires. So they were a mix of demons and vampires. So it explains why they all kind of look different, each one.
I thought this jumping off point was fantastic. All hell is breaking loose, right? People can't believe what's going on. And
the carnage that immediately ensues.
I mean, it's crazy. I like when they lock the doors and the stripper turns around and she says, dinner is served. And then you're like, oh, fuck, right? We get a bunch of deaths, a bunch of gore, and I thought the gore was used very well. I thought the practicals, for the most part, were really good. There are some bits where you can see the wires, but, for 1996, I thought this was very exciting.
What'd you think of Sex Machine's crotch gun?
I love that gun. It's the same gun from Desperado.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. I thought it was great because one of the vampires pulls him up and it pops out and boom, boom, he's gone. And they figure out that wooden stakes in the heart or in the chest, I guess. But they start figuring that bit out.
Well, Kate kills one with her cross.
Yep. And we know that has an effect on him. And
So this is a vampire trope.
yes.
Wooden stakes, cross. Yeah.
Yep. Holy water. And everyone's fighting, and Salma Hayek knocks Seth down, and she's like, I wonder if you taste as good as your brother. I would have said, here, go ahead. But he manages to,
I'm going to name you Spot.
and on my command, you will lick the dog shit off of my boot heel.
Because you are now entering into slavery.
No, thanks. I've already been married.
I really thought she was going to last to the end and be the big bad boss. I did not expect her to go out as quickly as she did.
Yeah, neither did I.
I like the kill or the kills that we get when we have is it Frost who uses the table and he puts a vampire through each one of the legs.
Yeah, he flips it over.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Right away during this scene, you start seeing who our major players are going to be. You got Sex Machine, Frost, Jacob and the family. You can see that this is going to be the group that's going to be continuing on.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
Yep.
And they do it in waves, right? They do the first wave. And what'd you think of Danny Trejo's death? Sex Machine takes the whip.
Oh, that's right.
And he throws him the steak, and Danny Trejo looks at the steak like, huh? I thought that was good. And he gets a steak to the heart, and they start taking care of everybody. And the part where Frost says, I thought they were all supposed to burn up. And then they all start to burn up. I thought it was a little cheesy.
I kept wondering.
I went with it.
I kept wondering with all the fires that happen, how this place doesn't burn down.
It's not burned down, yeah.
It's all wood.
Yeah.
We see Richie. He has been turned into a vampire, and he's got to be taken care of.
Oh, so good.
Of all the vampire costumes and makeup effects, I think Richie was my least favorite. I thought he just looked like a giant Frankenstein-looking thing. Maybe something out of Fright Night.
Well, he is half demon, so
Yeah. Just this big head-looking thing.
I like how they're going to try and kill him, but Seth stops him. Seth has to come to terms with it. And Richie's like, yeah, come on, let's fucking fight. And finally Seth says, all right, hold him down. And he takes the stake and he puts it to Richie's chest and he says, Richie, this is the peace and death that I could not bring you in life.
I think
And he stakes him.
I think the importance of this part is to show once someone's turned, they're done. They're gone. They're now the bad guy because, Richie obviously couldn't control himself anymore. In this movie, this is where it takes a really strong direction towards the Evil Dead franchise, is that anybody becomes basically this demon monster and is no longer themselves completely.
Yeah, I can see that.
We hear a whole bunch of bats showing up outside, and they realize, oh boy,
Yeah, because
here comes all their friends.
They had cleaned the room out, and pretty much you think, okay, the vampires are done. No, here comes the next round.
Yeah.
And then we see the newly undead. They start popping up, and so they got to go around and stake them.
And so we have this little bit with them going around. And then they're finally like, all right, what are we dealing with? And they have that little powwow, right? And Clooney's like, fucking vampires.
Well,
and I don't want to hear that you don't believe in vampires because they're vampires.
Well, I like too that we know that Sex Machine has been bit, and so now we're kind of seeing slowly the transformation as he's discovering his hand has changed. He's got a little fang, and
He looks kind of goofy. It's kind of funny.
it's kind of funny to watch the little subtle cues as he's changing.
He's trying to hide his hands.
Uh-huh. We have come to terms that we're dealing with vampires. Now, what do we know about vampires? And we have crosses, holy water, wooden stakes of the heart.
And
But
they
we've
have
got
the
a
greatest
preacher.
weapon. Yeah, the
Yeah.
greatest weapon.
And Jacob fucking hauls off on Seth, smacks him, right? He goes, I'm done with your taunts. I'm not going to take them anymore. And Seth's like, no, I'm not taunting you, Jacob. We fucking need you. All right. A servant of God can take the tap water and bless it and make it a weapon. A servant of God can take a crucifix and shove it up these monsters' asses. He needs to know, are you a faithless preacher or are you a mean motherfucking servant of God? And
Nice little pep talk.
I love how Jacob repeats it back to him, but drops the motherfucker.
yeah, he won't say it.
Does he say MF or something like
Yeah,
that?
no, he just says,
Yeah.
Oh,
And so we have a plan, right? And then we hear all the bats and they're like, what is that? And Clooney's like, it's fucking bats, duh.
And then for some silly reason, we hear Frost monologuing about his time in Nam in 72. Whatever.
But it's at this time that Sex Machine's going through the motions of being turned.
Right. He starts hearing that, the siren song, kill them.
Uh-huh. And he's staring at Scott kind of creepily as well. And, as the story goes on.
Now he bites Frost.
And now you're thinking, oh, fuck. And then, but what Frost does is he takes Sex Machine and he throws him out of the fucking door, which opens the door, which is going to let all of the vampires in.
Of all the transformations, apparently Frost was the fastest.
He was turbocharged fast. Why in the world did he change so fast? I don't know. And then, Jacob, he takes a long time to change.
Yeah. Yeah.
It must have to do something with where you're bitten, because wasn't Frost bitten in the neck or around the shoulder versus like Jacob in the arm? And I think
Sex Machine was in the arm too.
Yeah.
And he doesn't change lickety split like that.
Yeah.
But neither did Richie. Richie stayed dead for a second.
Yeah.
Right? They had to go through that whole thing and he was bit in the neck.
That's true.
So I don't know. I think it's plot convenience.
Yeah.
It didn't bother me.
No.
It didn't take me out of it. I wasn't really sold on his look. The front of Frost's nose or
He
his
had
face.
a very bat look.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was a bat. And so, yeah.
So in come all the bats, and then we flee to this back room area.
Right.
Of all these vampires that were now all these weird looking, melted looking vampires, there was only apparently 6 vampire costumes that they made. The rest were puppets and added by green screen.
Yeah, I believe it. And everything's kind of split up. And in the meantime, Jacob does get bit and he's bit in the arm, but he holds up behind the bar. And Seth and the kids go into this back room. As they're in there, Kate goes up to Seth and goes, we got to go back out there for my father. And Seth's like, he's dead, man. There's nothing we can do. And then Jacob kind of comes to and he realizes that all the vampires are behind him. And I like how he grabs the bat and he grabs the shotgun.
He's like,
a cross.
well, right here was supposed to symbolize he's getting back his faith because he now trusts the cross.
Jacob makes his way to the room and, and he's all, let me in. And as soon as he gets in there, Seth's like, are you bit? And he's like, yep.
It was refreshing that usually people try to hide things like that. And I thought, he's going to, keep it quiet until the end and then die or something like that. No, just right away. Yeah, I've been bit.
Yeah, every zombie movie we've seen, someone gets bit and tries to hide it. And then by the time they turn, it's too late.
And I actually thought it was a really interesting dialogue when he basically is talking to his kids about when the time comes.
making them promise.
Yeah, you will kill me.
Inside the storeroom, Jacob blesses holy water and arms the kids with weapons, asking them to promise to kill him once he turns. In a final stand, the group fights off a massive vampire onslaught. Sex Machine mutates into a giant rat-like vampire and is killed by Kate. Jacob turns and bites Scott, who kills his father but is quickly overwhelmed himself, begging Kate to finish him, which she does. Just as all seems lost, sunlight pierces the bar through bullet holes. Carlos arrives and opens the doors, flooding the club with daylight and destroying the remaining vampires. Seth berates Carlos for choosing such a deadly meeting place and negotiates a smaller cut for his sanctuary at El Rey. When Kate asks to come with him, Seth declines and gives her money for her survival. As she drives away in the RV, the camera pulls back to reveal the titty twister is built upon a buried Aztec temple surrounded by decades of abandoned vehicles. A graveyard of past victims. Roll credits. And so here we are. We're in this back room and Jacob makes his way in and they let him in and, you're bit. I'm going to turn. And he says, you got 2 choices. You can either deal with me now or you can deal with me when I turn. But when I turn, you got to promise that you'll kill me. And Clooney's like, yep, I promise.
I honestly... kept thinking throughout this whole movie, even though everybody's expendable, at least these 3 are going to make it out.
I wasn't so sure at this point.
At this point now, I'm thinking, no, they're not all going to make it out. At least the 2 kids are going to make it out now.
Yeah. Well, Not so much.
Exactly.
And so they figure out that in this back room, that these vampires must have been doing this for years. And so it's all the loot from all the trucks. And so they go through and they try to find some weapons. Scott gets a super soaker.
Super soaker and some water balloons, looks like.
George Clooney gets a drill of some sort.
That weapon was, I don't know, that was one of the dumb things in this movie.
It was not a practical weapon.
No, it just kind of pumped out the giant steak or something.
Yeah.
And it didn't even do it very fast.
It looked cool, I guess. Yeah, I've always had an issue with that.
Too big
specific
and bulky.
weapon.
They should have given him samurai swords.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Kate, she gets a bow.
A crossbow.
A crossbow.
A crossbow.
Yeah, pump action, which I thought was pretty nifty. And of course, Jacob has his shotgun and his bat. And so Jacob blesses everybody. They get ready for our final battle.
Yep.
And Jacob says, "You got to kill me." And Seth's like, "I'll do it." And the kids are like, "Okay." And he's like, "I don't believe you." And so he makes them promise, which I thought was a very heartfelt moment, because I mean, you're basically asking your kids to kill you. And Jacob's like, "Well, if you're not going to promise me, I'm just going to do it now." And they're like, "Okay." And Kate's like, okay, I promise. And Scott's like, "You're not going to do it. You don't believe in suicide." And I like Jacob's response. "It's not suicide if you're already dead." Mm-hmm. "And now, since you need me, I think you should fucking promise me." Right? So they promise each other. They go out there. What do you think of the final fight?
I feel like more action. I thought this whole thing has just turned into a big old chaos fight.
Yeah, absolutely. And I knew somewhere along the line that I was hoping Scott was going to go, but
I just assumed that Kate and Scott were going to escape, and that eventually maybe this movie's like would continue on with these two being vampire hunters or something to avenge their father.
I could have seen Seth sacrificing himself so the kids could get out.
Yeah.
Maybe that kind of a redemption story arc.
I would not have been surprised if the story had gone that way.
But it didn't.
I do like the vampire deaths. I like how Scott hits one with a water balloon and like half its head is gone.
Yeah, because of the holy water.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Jacob finally turns and he bites Scott, and Scott gets pulled up and starts getting ripped apart. And he tells Kate to kill him.
Why did they explode?
I don't know. Good question.
It's like, okay, nobody exploded before this, but now they're exploding?
Maybe it's a mixture of, you know what it is you notice during the montage suit up scene, they, whoever has the gun is putting crosses on the bullets. That's why they explode.
Yes, that's a good point. They're holy bullets.
They do have holy bullets.
But I just assumed it was the same trope from Lost Boys, that no vampire dies the same kind of thing.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe
that there's all these different ways.
I mean, it's consistent, right? They all at some point burn up into flames unless they get blown up.
But they melt and then burn up.
Yeah, and obviously the sunlight has a very powerful effect on them, because after everyone's dead and it's just Seth and Kate, they're back to back. And I love how Kate says, or Seth says, "How many bullets you got left?" She goes, "I don't know, but should I save them for us?" And Seth immediately is like, "No, use them on the next fuck that tries to bite you." And so finally they figure out that the sun's coming in and it's burning them. And Seth's like, "Shoot more holes." And they shoot more holes. And so the sunlight's coming to the rescue. And finally we hear Carlos banging on the door, and they blow open the door and they run out. And I love the added bit, which is just like a cherry on top, when the sun hits the
disco ball.
Yeah. I thought that was so cute, because it would spin, a ray of light would hit a vampire, boom, and so on and so forth until the entire bar blows up. So it's fucking awesome. I loved it. and then Seth and Carlos's interaction. Seth knocks the shit out of him and goes, "Why in God's name of all the places on earth that you would want to meet here?" And Carlos is like, "Well, one place is good as the other."
There was a little bit of foreshadowing in the beginning of the movie where Richie mentions that Carlos is getting too big of a cut. And so he's arguing, "Why don't we talk about it?" He's like, "No, it's always 30%. It's a gentleman thing. It's an agreement between bad guys, basically. It's always going to be 30." And here now we get Seth saying, I ain't paying you 30%.
Yeah, it's more of a callback.
Yeah.
Than,
Okay.
yeah. But you're absolutely right. And that whole bit between Seth and Richie about the 30% is a great bit of dialogue too.
Yes, it is.
I like how Carlos goes, were they psychos? Psychos do not explode when sunlight hits them. I don't give a fuck how crazy they are. Such good writing. And Carlos is like, well, what can I do? And Seth's like, 15% for my stay in El Rey, 15 instead of 30. And then they do that whole back and forth, which I thought was a lot of fun. And so they make the arrangements. And this is the bit where Seth and Kate are going to part ways. And I thought the same thing that Kate thought when I first saw this in the theater. And as I'm sitting there, I'm thinking she should go with him. What else has she got?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, obviously he's not going to hurt her in a way that we think he would hurt her. But Seth, being very self-aware, says, Kate, do you know where I'm going? Do you know what El Rey is? She's like, no. And he's like, well, then go home. Because I might be a bastard. I'm not a fucking bastard. Gives her some cash.
I thought, she's changed so much because of this. She's lost her whole family. That you're absolutely right. She was going to go, and she's now the new partner of Seth.
Yeah, see, I kind of thought that.
And I thought that they were going to be kind of come almost like a father-daughter kind of brother-sister relationship.
Maybe. But yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that was From Dusk Till Dawn.
And it was a cool reveal at the end to see the Aztec temple and all of those vehicles.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Because now it's been going on for centuries and
for
centuries.
A long time.
I just assume nobody ever went out back to have a smoke.
No, they all went out front. Or you could probably smoke in the bar.
That's probably true.
So, yeah, there you go. All right, what do you guys think? You guys ready to rate this flick?
I'm ready to rate this flick. How about you, John? Are you ready to rate this flick?
Damn right I'm ready. I've got bullets for the plot holes and holy water for the weird shit.
Hey, Professor, how do we do our ratings?
We do our ratings on a scale of 1 to 5 fucks. 5 fucks is a movie that we think is cinematic gold. A 1 fuck movie is where you get done watching it and you're thinking to yourself, I'm never watching that again.
And what's a 0?
A 0 fuck movie is where you get done watching it, you turn to your buddy and you're like, oh, for shit's sake, what the hell? Why would you make me watch? I want 1 hour and 48 minutes of my life back.
Or in other words, we just don't give a fuck. All right, I will go first since this was my pick.
You go first.
Hey, thanks, buddy. From Dusk Till Dawn is a delightful film. I think it is very fun. It is one of my favorite Robert Rodriguez movies. It's one of my favorite Quentin Tarantino written movies. It's one of my favorite George Clooney movies. And I could watch it anytime, any place, anywhere. I like the soundtrack. I like the special effects. I like the story. I like how it starts one way and finishes the other. The only thing that kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say brings it down for me, but the only issues I have with it is I'm not a huge Ernest Liu fan. I thought the character was, and then some of the effects in some of the parts are kind of hokey. But overall, it is a lot of fun. If you haven't seen it, I recommend seeing it. I'm giving From Dusk Till Dawn 4.75 fucks.
Okay, I'll go next. From Dusk Till Dawn is an interesting watch. The first act of the movie is, I think, a very good watch. It's great writing, and I enjoy the dialogue. It is Quentin Tarantino doing what he does best. Just conversations that go back and forth. And the build that we get of Seth and Richie is really good. And I think that the movie is where it's strongest is in this first act. By the time we get to the third act, I knew what I was getting into. All right, this is going to be a horror movie now from going, this to the end. And so for me, I had, a really good watch during the first half. And then the second act, during the RV was good and compelling as well. But by the time I got to the third act with the vampires, I understood more or less where we were going. And it wasn't where I wanted the movie to end up. The vampire angle, okay, fine. But, it's the fact that these are two completely different movies, at the first act to the third act, it's just like you would have no idea that these two are related to each other. And I didn't feel disappointed by that, but it just wasn't necessarily my groove. Watching the movie, thinking, I really dig George Clooney. He's a great watch in this. I dug the camera work that we get, especially when we have the gun being waved around and some of the angles, because Seth looks so intimidating and the dialogue is so strong that, he is definitely, a force to be reckoned with that you don't want to fuck with, because he is going to, take you down, period. I think I'm probably going to have to give this movie 3 fucks. It's not a great movie, but it's not necessarily a bad movie. George Clooney carries it. The screenwriting that done by Quentin Tarantino, gives me something to hold on to say that I think this is a good watch, just not a great watch.
There you go. 3 fucks from the professor.
Should I go next?
Who else is there?
I don't know.
Okay, there you go, buddy.
Before I do, Don, would you like to guess my rating?
Oh, sure. You're going to give... I didn't realize this was your first time you'd ever seen this. I thought for sure you had seen this before.
I thought I had too.
Let's say you were going to give this 3.5 fucks.
Final answer?
Final answer.
Okay. Guns, boobs, and Salma Hayek. 4 fucks.
Seriously?
Yeah. Well, you guys have already said everything else that needed to be said.
When has that ever stopped you before?
Do you want me to read?
No. I fucking love that. I love the... I'm so proud of you right now. And that you gave it higher than what I thought you were going to give it, which means you liked it more than I thought you liked it. So I'm very pleasantly surprised with that whole thing. With 4 fucks from the comic book guy, 3 fucks from the professor, and 4.75 fucks from myself, that gives From Dusk Till Dawn an average of 3.9 fucks, which now puts it in the 14th spot with The Nightmare Before Christmas, Arrival, The Descent, Moonrise Kingdom, and The Suicide Squad. It is slightly better than What Dreams May Come, True Lies, Step Brothers, and Inglourious Bastards, and slightly worse than The Batman, Clerks 2, Edge of Tomorrow, The Thing, Zombieland, Tombstone, Dodgeball, The Iron Giant, V for Vendetta, and Joe Rabbit. So there you have it, boys. All right, that is going to wrap it up for this episode of 3 Guys in a Flick. If you would like to know which movie we're going to be reviewing next, please check out the website. Speaking of which, hey, John, where can they find us?
They can find us at 3guysinaflick.com, where we go ahead and post all of our show notes, anything interesting about the movie we want to throw up on there. And you can find all of our podcasts available as well. You also have a web form on there that you could submit a movie you would like to go in the helmet to have us review down the road. You can also find us at all of social media, where on Tuesdays, I like to post what movie we will be releasing on Thursday. You can also find us at every place that hosts podcasts. While you're listening to us, be sure to subscribe, give us a rating, and in the comments, if you'd like, you could submit a movie there that will also go into the helmet.
All right, I just want to thank anyone who listens and who has suggested a movie. If you keep listening, we'll keep recording. For 3 Guys in a Flick, I'm Don.
I'm John.
And I'm Ken. Thanks for listening.
3 guys with some mics, yeah, darling to the flicks. We're here for the real talk, no time for the tricks. Dawn as the captain, steering us right. Kid drops, now they're shedding light. John with the comics, bringing the hype. From the good, the bad, to the absurd. We break it down, make sure you heard. Passion for the screen, we ride or die about movies. You know we always give a fuck, no lie.
Is there anything you want to say after? Coming to you from the Titty Twister, why does it smell like
apple pie pussy? We're going to get in so much fucking trouble.
Cheech Chong?
The Cheech Eat Chong. Maybe.
You want to ask if it's trivia time in a Cheech voice?
No, that's very stereotypical. I think you want to do it, though.
Somehow I think it would be wrong if I did it.
That's part of the magic.
I'm just now trying to imagine the professor sitting there counting on his fingers every time they say the word pussy.
Oh no, he was doing check marks.
I had to turn it down and had the captions on so I could sit there
I love it. All right. I just want to thank myself for throwing this into the Bronco.
Well, actually, you did, and then you pulled it out immediately.
Oh, that's probably true. That's probably true.
Pulled it out.
Oh, I'll pull out all right. Or maybe I won't. I don't know. Attention, pussy shoppers. Take advantage of our penny pussy sale. If you buy one piece of pussy at regular price, you get another piece of pussy of equal or lesser value for only a penny. Try and beat pussy for a penny. If you can find cheaper pussy anywhere else, fuck it. All right, what you's got, homies?
I've got a few, but I want to know what the professor has.
I saw him feverishly writing down over there. So yeah, I want to know what the professor has too.
Coming in Dusty, Jill, and Dawn.
Ooh. A lot of these are going to be Dawn.
Yeah, probably. Go ahead.
I have From Dusk Till Dawn.
Dong.
Dong.
God, I like it. I have From Thrust Till Dawn.
From Lust Till Done.
I have From Lust Till Dawn. But yeah. From Dusk Till Dom. Like domination. I like that one.
This one I was a little concerned about. My Dick and Dawn.
You know what? I'm a little concerned about that one too. So that's okay. From Butts Till Dawn.
Oh, From Butts in Dong? I don't know.
I like From Butts Till Dawn.
Well, my final one was Your Mom Dusked My Dong.
That's a good one. That's a good one. That's bad. All right. May all of your days and nights be filled with happiness. All right. Fuck off. Good night.
Tune in, feel the thrill, catch the vibe. As three guys in a flick, keep the passion alive. Fuck that.